Generally, George is responsible for Lennie. Lennie being something of what we would call neurodivergent now. I think fundamentally what's interesting about George in the relationship is that he comes into relationship with Lennie based on a promise he made to Lennie's aunt that he would take care of him. And so, he has a responsibility that is actually more rooted in his promise to Lennie's aunt. And then obviously as time goes on, they grow into such a relationship that really George can't live without him. And his dreams are codependent on Lennie being there.
I think George and Lennie have a complex relationship. I think it looks from the outside that George is Lennie's protector and Lennie's father almost, and he's the one who's important. They both need each other. They're brothers, they're father and son, and they love each other, actually, and they protect each other as much as they can. So I think it's very much a protective relationship for both of them. And I think Lennie gives George childish enthusiasm that George needs, and George gives Lennie all the protection he could ever need.
Musically, what Carlisle Floyd does brilliantly is really set up the psychological drama. And from the very beginning, the whole opera begins with sirens. Something's on fire, something's wrong. There's pursuit, and you hear that in the music, you hear the urgency, and we do get some beautiful sort of pastoral moments that really highlights the American story that we're telling. But at the heart of this thing is gripping psychological, really torment.
Yeah, and I think, again, that Lennie enthusiasm is all the way through his music in the opera, and it gives George that, because George, I would say, is a glass half empty character. Lennie's very much glass half full, and all that music of Lennie really is vibrant and excited and makes George that, which I think is great.
And George and Lennie's relationship gets both the intensity of the psychology, the give and take between them in terms of frustration, anxiety, but then there's also really beautiful moments when they're fleshing out their dreams together, or when Lennie is telling his version of how he sees the world, how he embraces the world. And then we get some luxurious orchestration that really just really lets us take a break from always being on edge, always anticipating. And Carlisle obviously understood this and brings that into the operatic genre in a way that doesn't distract us, but highlights, really the story in only the way opera can.
I think it's a fascinating role, Lennie. I think he remembers things. He is protective, fiercely protective of George, obviously. And I think it's just finding that other dimension of he's not just, as we would say today, probably on the spectrum is what you would say in today's idiom, but he's a complex character, and I think it's a very human story, and one that will always resonate, I think, and I think that's just a massive feather in the cap to Steinbeck's writing.
The amount of intimacy that this theater provides will allow you an opportunity to see this opera, and really any opera, but especially this one, very up close. The back row is as in the barn with us, or in the bunkhouse, as that front row as we are on stage. And that really is the beauty of this experience at Des Moines Metro Opera and the Blank Performing Arts Center. It's just going to be a beautiful experience for those of us on stage sharing it with the audience. We're really all in it together.